Hello everyone, this is Anthony, and let's get started with the Technologist.News. Alright, so I have 3 articles that I have linked below, so let's get started. First thing will be very quick. It's essentially about Ubuntu, the very popular open source Linux operating system, and it is now open for, it's released the beta version, so you can actually download it, install it, and try before it's released in the full version anyway, the full version that has already been looked through in development, Ubuntu 16.04 long-term support, and you can actually download it, try it out for yourself, and give your 2 cents. The importance is the fact that as of April, when it releases its full version, so after it's gone through its beta stage and had you, the community, let Canonical know what improvements should be made in it and what you like about it and what you don't like about it, aside from that, you're also essentially preparing for the newest version of Ubuntu-based operating systems, which for the likes of Ubuntu Mate, Kubuntu, Lubuntu, and so on, that are going to be affected by these changes. But it's also the long-term support version that's going to be supported starting in 2016, well over into the 2020s. So it's a big deal. So you can definitely check out that article that explains a little bit more detail about it. But you can also even click and download it there also. It'll take you right to the links to the Ubuntu website where you can download the beta version. So I encourage you, if you're in the Linux, if you're involved in the Linux community or you're kind of curious about it, go check it out. I suggest it to you. It's a great idea. And believe me, Ubuntu is very well known out of the hundreds of different Linux distributions out there, mostly because of its simplicity. It's a lot more easier to understand and to get into Ubuntu straight from if you're a Windows user and you want to kind of try something new. It's very popular in that sense. I mean, there's hundreds of different types of distributions, though. And mind you, I have a business that talks about Linux here, AJN Technologies. But anyway, I also want to talk about Raspberry Pi as well. Raspberry Pi 3 is now out. It's now for sale. And what's cool about it is it has some sentiment with it. I mean, in case you're not aware, Raspberry Pi was created by the Raspberry Pi Foundation to essentially create an affordable and accessible piece of hardware that you could get yourself involved in, not just as a hobbyist, but get yourself involved as a young child or somebody who is just learning about computer science and wants to get into it more and learn about it and for fun. And that's how it really started with the Foundation, and it has just not just been successful, but has been in global proportions. Everything from businesses to technopreneurs like myself get involved in it and want to learn more about how they can utilize it for more than just programming, but for as a solution, as a product line, as something to be powered by Raspberry Pi. And so this is extraordinary. And what's nice about version 3 is that it's actually better performance, better hardware, still the same form factor and size that you're familiar with than the Raspberry Pi 2, and also has built-in wireless capabilities, so built-in Wi-Fi and built-in Bluetooth, which make it even more awesome. And it also is to commemorate, of course, Raspberry Pi Foundation and their 4th anniversary of being or of doing what they do. And for that, I do recommend that you check it out. There are articles there, and, donate. Give it a try, maybe go buy yourself a Raspberry Pi, or even just donate to the Raspberry Pi Foundation. They would definitely appreciate it. They have definitely been able to be on the forefront of innovation in terms of the Internet of Things and where it's going, and all of the different guidelines and the innovation in law that will have to be made accordingly, and in terms of new protocols and where it's going. Because even Intel has said it on Twitter that I read recently that mentioned that well over 50% of all new businesses out there that are technology-based that have been around for less than 3 years are exploring the Internet of Things type of solutions, which is the concept and idea of making small appliances or devices that are just fun in general or really cool that work off of the internet or off of statistics, and there's just so much potential there, like you will not believe. Let's just say that things are going to get very crowded with devices on the internet very soon, because you even have big companies like Microsoft and IBM getting involved and investing billions of dollars into this industry, which is said to be well over trillions of dollars in very soon. So I would probably at least get yourself involved, or at least learn a little bit about the Raspberry Pi to get yourself started on what the Internet of Things type of projects are out there. And with that, I also want to mention the third thing, which is about OpenShot, which is the very same software I'm using to make this video even possible for you. I do editing on OpenShot. It's the open source video editing software that was originally made to be on all platforms, but is most popular on Linux because it's an open source project. But what they've been wanting to do is they wanted to raise $20,000 to be able to make a lot better product, to make a lot better software, and to be able to afford better work on the software for it to be better graphically, to be better in terms of animation and how much it renders and how well it does it, its performance, as well as concepts and ideas that they had. For example, making a server type of version of this video editing software where you could essentially send your video editing project to that server. It does the rendering, it takes care of the processing and all that part to finish the video and create it for you, while the client has a little less work to worry about in that sense, which is convenient and awesome. So their goal was $20,000 just in general, just to improve the software and maybe come out with a beta and then come out with a full version and make it better. But not only did they raise $20,000, they actually raised well over and into their stretch goal, which was $45,000, so that they could also, in terms of not just improving the software and making it available on all three platforms, but as well the server idea that I was talking about, that they want to work on and develop. So this is a great and amazing news for OpenShot. OpenShot 2.0 beta will be out to really essentially revolutionize the way OpenShot already works, and how it's going to be available on all platforms, and essentially really push itself out there to be an industry standard type and simplified version of video editing software, really close to that of Final Cut Pro, which says a lot. iMovie, Kdenlive, I got OpenShot, baby, let's go. Essentially, that's what would potentially happen with great involvement from the community, and if they're really able to push that forward and get development going. So this is great news for OpenShot, so you can definitely check out that article and check out their Kickstarter that goes into more detail about what their goal and their opportunities and ideas were going into this. It's phenomenal. Also, just quick before I end, I wanted to talk about what's going on with all this issues on YouTube. I mean, it's been talked about everywhere about the fair use. I actually recommend watching a debate that was done on DramaAlert. It was very well articulated. And essentially, yeah, what are we going to do about the unfairness, I guess you could say, of fair use on YouTube, and how YouTube really needs to step up its game? I mean, as a creator, I've been around since 2007, and I've seen some trends come and go, and this trend is a little more disturbing. The idea that the community guidelines are not being enforced to the point where there are literally other YouTubers, and even the successful ones, the ones that you would think would be a good role model to us, and really show us what it's like to really be ambassadors and champions of this kind of guidelines, and what fair use really is, are abusing it. Not only is that terrible, but it really sucks to really see how badly this gray of a line in terms of guidelines versus what real fair use is. I mean, this really needs to step up our game here. YouTube really needs to get more involved in how it enforces its guidelines. It needs to, if it can't open source it, it really just needs to step up their game. We really need to be able to work together as creators and as individuals to really also make a ruckus about it and talk about it, discuss this with our elected officials as well, so we can do something about the DMCA in terms of there in the States, to get more involved, maybe learn more about it if you're getting into YouTube, try to see where we can educate each other or find a way to push some concepts and ideas that can work. And if law is going to take forever to do, well, then at least get the process started, and then have YouTube and let YouTube know the issue at hand, which is that our guidelines are being abused, they're not working out in our favor, and it is prosecuting and essentially hurting small YouTube channels in favor of the politics of greed. in favor of those who may not necessarily deserve to be getting away with essentially breaking rules. We really need to step up. And I believe that thanks to Grade A Under A at least getting started with the whole and piloting this whole idea and really sticking his neck out for us and getting started with the conversation is definitely the first way to get started. It's always the first way to acknowledge that something has not been working and is hurting us rather than helping us creators to be more successful, to be more open and transparent about these issues. It's a great way to get started. I've seen it for myself in experience when I ran in multiple elections, when I ran provincially and federally, that just at least getting started and discussing it is the first step to knowing that there is a problem and to really get to it and fixing it so we can innovate and let it flourish in the community. So I thank you for taking the time to listen and watch me in this longer than usual Technologist video. So with that, I thank you for that, and we'll talk soon. But of course, there was one last thing. Oh yeah, what my opinion is about Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon coming out? Well, you know, it's really great concept. The idea that they're actually letting the Virtual Console version of Pokemon Blue and Red on our 3DS to transfer those Pokemon into Pokemon Bank or into the newest version is great. But I'm just kind of curious to see how that new version is going to be like. So I guess we're going to have to just sit back and watch and see what comes up. And so with that, thanks for watching the Technologist News, and we'll talk soon.